Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us to learn more about the multicultural factor and what it looks like to connect with the new majority. I'm Aubrie Lamar. I'm a VP Group Account Director at iProspect, and what that means is I get to oversee client strategy and growth across several of our clients in several different industries.
I'm Jonatan Zinger. I'm the SVP of Media Insights at Amate. That is an iProspect company where I help brands connect with multicultural consumers.
So over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to be discussing a variety of things, but really focusing on why a multicultural strategy is important. We'll be looking at some population and trend data to prove that point. We'll also look at how a multicultural strategy can impact your business. We'll give you a couple tangible things that you could implement today to start driving that forward. And then we'll discuss a few next steps to kick off a multicultural strategy internally within your organization and how to best partner with iProspect to do that.
So when trying to understand multicultural marketing, it's very important to avoid falling in a one-size-fits-all approach. Trying to approach all multicultural segments through a single strategy would be as alienating as attempting to fit everyone under the concept of general market. At Amate, specifically, we've been helping brands connect with multicultural consumers since 2001, and three multicultural segments that are particularly important for us are Latinos, African Americans, and Asian Americans. And for the purpose of the examples that we are going to show you today, we are going to focus mostly on Latinos as they are the highest growing segment. So multicultural marketing does not equate inclusion marketing per se, but showing multicultural consumers that our brands recognize and care about them is a way of building stronger brand relationships through inclusion. So good multicultural marketing is inclusive in its essence, we could say.
So why is this so important and why are we so passionate about this? You might be asking yourself. Well, really at the most basic level, it's in the numbers. So every single day that passes means that America is becoming more and more multicultural. Multicultural consumers are actually the fastest growing segment in the US, and this is being driven by both immigration and birth rate. So since 2000, just 20 years ago, 92% of the total growth in the US population has come from this multicultural audience. This growth has resulted in a total of 120 million multicultural consumers in the US alone. So this growth means a variety of things, but it really means that the minorities are quickly becoming the new majority in the US. Population mix continues to change and new generations are becoming mostly multicultural. So for example, I mean, just looking at some of the younger generations here, 53% of Gen Z is multicultural and 42% of millennials are multicultural. Additionally, if we look at 21 of the top 25 most populated counties in the US, those are mostly multicultural. And while Nielsen has confirmed these stats, we expect these to be further confirmed with the 2020 census that will be coming out later this year. So it's no question that multiculturals are growing and growing very quick here in the US, but their buying power is actually growing even faster. So multicultural buying power has increased from 661 billion to 3.9 trillion over the last 30 years. This represents a percentage increase of almost 500%, which is more than double the total US buying power of 204%. So looking at this, the multicultural market size and buying power really requires a lot of thoughtful understanding about what this audience means to a company's bottom line. So leaning into these trends really means that we need to become more culturally relevant in order to drive performance for our brands. By doing this, we're going to be creating and bringing new audiences to our brands. We're going to help establish longer lasting relationships with our customers, and we're really going to be future proofing our business, all of which is going to really impact the bottom line.
So thinking about how to build deeper relationships between brand and multicultural consumers, we determined three pillars that we consider to be key: the situational nature of language usage, the crucial importance of cultural cues, and the necessity of a balanced approach towards multicultural media buying. And now we'll look a little bit deeper into these three pillars. Something in particular that we've identified through our research is that in time, as immigration-related multiculturals arrive to the US and they build their families in the country, the relationship between these segments and language has evolved from what we used to call language dominance, for instance, when we referred to a Spanish-dominant Latino or an English-dominant Latino, to unique language journeys. So in the case of Latinos, as generations progress, their use of English language becomes more predominant. However, taking a closer look, as you can see in this chart, we can notice how most of them still sustain a daily use of Spanish language at some point of their day. So you can see that even when it's safe to say that most Latinos in the US could be qualified as quote unquote English dominant, over 80% of them choose at least some Spanish as they go about their day. So a second or third generation Hispanic like Juanita in this example may start her day in a multi-generational household in which she speaks in Spanish with some family members, for instance, her grandmother. She may commute to her workplace while listening to long-form audio content in Spanish, browse the news in English, scroll through her social feed that has both English and language content from different friends, and arrive to a workplace in which she'll prepare an English language presentation while exchanging with a co-worker in Spanglish. So language paths, as you can see, are as unique as every individual, and this needs to be recognized and addressed by brands. To illustrate with a case study the importance of considering language beyond translations, we can talk for a second about some of the work that we did for our client General Mills. So bicultural Latina moms were over-indexing in almost 20 General Mills brand consumption, and nobody was talking directly with them. So how could these brands create an emotional bond to embrace and grow this audience? Filing an important content gap for a fast-growing Latina mom audience, we transformed the brand into a publisher through an online portal called Que Rica Vida, which translates to What a Yummy Life. So one way that we identified how language is situational in action was when we analyzed Latin American recipe consumption on this very portal. We found that while English users of the site were connecting with their roots, so they were mostly Latinas that were browsing for dishes they had heard of or wanted to try, Spanish language users were actually taking action. So mostly they mostly knew the dishes very, very well, and they were trying to get very precise details on how to perfect them. So again, English users were connecting with their roots, and Spanish users were taking action. So the content that we provided and the approach to content that we provided to each of them was different in its nature. So in a nutshell, multicultural people want to feel acknowledged, recognized, and understood by brands. Many marketers take a generic approach to multicultural marketing, from direct translations to simplistic changes in imagery. And not only does this approach lack value, but it can be detrimental as it reveals a lack of care for multicultural audiences. We always say that generic hurts. So by connecting with consumers at a cultural level, marketers can achieve more than an increase in brand consideration and sales. When a brand is categorized as a brand that understands me by a multicultural consumer, there is an increased loyalty, organic amplification, and even out-of-category consideration. As you can see in this chart, consideration of cultural values and background is higher on multicultural segments, very particularly in the case of Latinos. And an example that I think showcases the impact of cultural cues has to do with work that we did for our client Sprint. Mexican Day of the Dead, like many holidays, has become highly trivialized with insensitive ad campaigns, and we try to differentiate our client by creating a very tender and respectful engagement strategy. Mexican culture doesn't regard Day of the Dead with sadness, but rather with celebration and altars full of offerings. And for that reason, for 3 years in a row, we brought the altars online, evolving the artistic approach year after year, and prompting people to share their digital altar in a place where they already share a great part of their lives, that is, their social networks. And I would say that the ability to take risks, like putting together a successful campaign based on something as sensitive as deceased loved ones, showcases the importance and also the opportunity in cultural cues.
I love that campaign. So finally, we recommend a balanced media approach. Probably no surprises there, but a balanced media approach in order to target multiculturals is tremendously important. So, at the end of the day, the multicultural factor that we've been alluding to throughout the presentation is really just the additional lift that we can expect when we as brands are culturally relevant. So when you think about this, in many and most occasions that we see, this is a very powerful optimization factor that increases performance beyond all of our traditional optimization levers that we think of, like budgeting, media mix, tactical optimization, etc. So when we think about, how to apply this tactically, really some of the key considerations when balanced media buying for multicultural audiences just have to do with creating a balance and flow between both specialized media and audience targeting. So for example, Essence Magazine is a great publisher to work with in order to reach the African American female. But at the end of the day, we're only actually reaching a portion of that segment by targeting Essence. It's just the audience that actually visits that site and interacts with that publisher's content. And so, something that we recommend is also working with a network and taking advantage of audience targeting to ensure that we have a complete audience approach there. Another tactical opportunity and something that's very important for immigration-related multiculturals is to consider non-US publishers. So when putting together a media strategy for this audience, we really need to consider their country of origin and some of the top brand safe sites in those countries, and then target the US population in order to reach that expat audience. And then in search in particular, language governance is crucial. So we'll definitely need to balance things like browser settings, keywords, keywords that aren't even certain languages. So think about our brand names. From there, we'll need to determine strict governance to avoid overlap and so that we can take advantage of the fact that oftentimes the non-English keywords actually tend to be much more cost efficient than English keywords. And then finally, remember that cultural moments really matter and should be considered in a media plan, as well as there's a plethora of advanced audience targeting, particularly in paid social, but really across all of our channels these days that will really allow us to lean into this audience and ensure that we're driving the most qualified audience. So you've likely picked up on the fact that we love wrapping up each of the pillars with a case study. So we'll go over the Martell campaign here quickly. So Martell wanted to engage with us and wanted to target travelers that were traveling from Asia and to the US and really wanted to reach them within that pre-flight window and drive them to duty-free locations. So in order to create a thumb-stopping moment in really we only had minutes to do this, we created a retail exclusive promotion. So through a series of highly visual ads, we provided a captivating and really compelling visual display, while also providing a very useful terminal map for them to get them into the store. And what this did is it really blurred the lines between an ad and a utilitarian app. So to do this, we worked with a local and multicultural network to target these Asian travelers. And by appealing to the traveler's sense of adventure and love of VIP experience, we were really able to create a seamless geo-targeted campaign that drove results. And so at the airport, consumers are always just one step away from something. They're one step away from closing a deal, one step away from a much needed vacation, maybe one step away from celebrating with family. And this brand wants to be a part of those moments. And so by putting the map in their hand, this drove the action that we wanted them to take by making it very easy. And the fact that we were able to very specifically target the Asian traveler was tremendous in driving these results very cost efficiently as well. So if we think about these three pillars that we've been discussing, the theme really is about being personal, being relevant, being timely, which at the end of the day is people-based marketing, right? It's something that you probably hear us at iProspect talk a lot about, but it's something that we are crazy passionate about. And I think I would be so bold to say that if our brands are not participating in a multicultural strategy, we're really not doing people-based marketing.
As multicultural becomes the new majority in the US, incrementing cultural relevance can help brands establish new differentiation terrains also build longer-term relationships with consumers, and fundamentally become better equipped for the future landscape and increase overall revenue. So multicultural marketing is a way to future-proof brands. So some immediate next steps that you and your team can take towards building deeper relationships with the multicultural audience involve sparking the conversation about multicultural strategies, speaking with your iProspect team about multicultural insights and recommendations, and at the end of the day, keeping in mind that a generic, inattentive approach hurts, and brands that understand and care about the multicultural consumer face a lot to gain. Aubrie and I definitely thank you very, very much for your attention, and we welcome any questions or comments that you may have. We both hope to hear from you soon.